All right, so with the grand jury clearing the officer, does that mean the end of this case? Ken Zimmerman is a contributor for the National Law Journal and a former general counsel. Alex Ozols is a criminal defense attorney. Good morning to you both. Thank you for being here.
You bet.
Good morning. Thank you.
So we've all seen that photo. We can pull it up again of the two guns side by side. The real gun and the replica gun really look pretty much identical here. Kent, is this ultimately what it comes down to, the grand jury not charging the officers because they weren't able to differentiate these two?
It's a big part of it, Abby. You know, this is such a tough case, and my heart goes out to Tamir Rice's family. It's a terrible, terrible case for everybody involved. And with the benefit of hindsight, it's easy to see, look, this is a 12-year-old kid. The gun, it turns out, was a replica. Obviously, knowing all that, the officer shouldn't have shot. But here's what this case comes down to, Abby. When the officer pulled up on the scene, the evidence that's been released shows all he knew was that he was facing what was called a guy with a gun. That's what dispatch told him. And when he pulled up, there was a 170-pound male who wears size 36 pants, who, when the officer pulled up and approached him, didn't put his hands up, but instead reached into his waistband and pulled out what looked like a real gun. And in that split second, less than a second, the officer had to decide, am I or is anybody else in danger of being shot? And he decided that he was. That was the inquiry yesterday the grand jury looked at. And so it's very easy, with the benefit of hindsight, to know what should have happened, but what the officer actually knew at the time is what this is all about.
Yeah, and Alex, that makes it very difficult. Obviously, this is a big case. A lot of people are upset about it. They're watching it all over the country. Where does it go from here? This is obviously not the end of it.
Well, I mean, someone called 911 and they said that there was a juvenile out there and they had a weapon that was likely fake. At this point, the officers come in and, like the Wild Wild West, they start shooting. I mean, this kid was dead within a second. If you watch the video, the first thing the officer does is come out and start shooting. And now it's coming to light that this was a rookie officer who was still in training, who'd been dismissed from his prior police department because he had a meltdown at the gun range. And the chief of police there said that they questioned whether he could make good choices in stressful situations. They jumped the gun there and they started shooting immediately, and now a 12-year-old kid is dead. So, you know, I agree, however, that if they had a reasonable belief that they were in danger, that they may be legally justified. But I think that more info needs to come out at this point to see what their thoughts were before this happened, if there's a dash cam video or any audio of what they were saying before this happened, to see whether that belief is actually valid or not.
Well, and Ken, unfortunately, there are so many similar stories that have happened in the past year like this. Do you see this as an isolated incident, or could the outcome of this case impact so many of the others that are going on?
Each case needs to be judged on its own facts, on the merits of that case. And Alex raises a good point. It turns out that the caller to 911 said it was probably a juvenile and indicated the gun was probably a fake. The problem is that dispatch did not relay that information to the officer. Should they have? Absolutely. We would probably have a different case and likely a tragedy could have been avoided. But just because dispatch may have had a communication error doesn't mean that the officer is criminally liable for the shooting. This is a horrible case for everybody involved, but tragic miscommunication, horrible case does not equal criminal. That's the issue here.
Well, Alex, for folks that are so angry about this, what more can be done? Because here you have a young boy who was shot 16 times, officers now not being charged. Is that how it ends?
If that's how it ends, then what more can be done is you got to look at two different things. One, this kid shouldn't have been going around in a park with a pellet gun by himself. He's a 12-year-old kid, and there needs to be, you know, responsibility for that. This kid should be, if he has a pellet gun out by himself, his parents should be involved. They should be supervising him. The other thing that has to be done is the police need to be trained to not just shoot immediately. They need to look at all of the circumstances. If nothing else can be done legally, hopefully this is a life lesson so this doesn't happen again in the future.
Well, and apparently, Kent, they could, I guess, be disciplined from this. What does that even mean?
That's exactly right, Abby. There's an administrative investigation underway into these officers. There also could and likely will be a civil suit where the family, if they prevail, could collect money damages. So there also could be a federal civil rights investigation. So this is not the end of the story, but what that grand jury was asked to do was figure out whether there was probable cause that a criminal act was committed. They decided no. That's not the end of the road in this case, though. There may well be discipline for the poor communication between dispatch and the officers and other elements of this case. That remains to be seen. It's not over yet.
Yeah, it's a sad, sad story. Ken, Alex, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you very much.